Hello and welcome to 100 Yards of Football, Sports Talk Radio. I'm your producer, Jeremiah Long, and joining me to talk about the Georgia Bulldogs, against my Tennessee Volunteers. It's one of the most exciting games we talk about every single season, for me at least, is our host, the man who needs no introduction, but we're going to give him one because we want you to know how much we love and respect this man, how much he comes to us every week to bring you the best in football coverage, and how this is one of the most valuable people in our team, Mr. Logan Landers. How's it going, man?
What's going on, Jeremiah? Happy Monday to all the listeners, all the viewers out there. Talking some more great college football. The season's winding down a little bit. Only a few games left on the year. But we have a great SEC matchup here. Of course, with the number one ranked team in the country represent the Georgia Bulldogs going up against Tennessee. The Volunteers looking to pull off the upset. We'll see what can happen. There could be some fireworks, or it could just be another Saturday for the Bulldogs. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah, and to all my Georgia Bulldog fans out there, I know y'all are nervous coming, and playing Tennessee. I'm a Tennessee Volunteers fan all the way back to in the 90s when, I was there for Hot Like 98. I was there into the early 2000s. I went to high school in that era. So I know, Georgia, y'all got to be scared, right? I know you're the number one team in the country. If you don't win this game, it's not going to look good on your season. It's going to mess with your playoff chances. There's a lot of reasons that Georgia has to come in here and they have to fight just as hard as they would any other team, including an Alabama, because this Tennessee Volunteer team may not be the number one team in the nation. They may not be undefeated. They may not, be one of those teams that, everyone's talking about constantly. But this team is going to come in under Josh Heupel and going to play 4 strong quarters of football, and they're going to give them a run for their money. That's all I can say. So without further ado, Mr. Landers, break it down for us. What do the Tennessee Volunteers and Georgia Bulldogs fans have to look forward to this coming game?
Well, let's start off with the number one team in the country, the one that everyone's talking about, the favorites to win it so far this year. And of course, that's the Georgia Bulldogs. Jeremiah, in the last 2 games that they've played against Missouri and Florida, they've only allowed 13 points in those ball games combined. Combined. They allowed 7 to Florida and only 6 to Missouri. Not even a touchdown last week they gave up. And with their star linebacker, Adam Anderson, we don't know if he's going to come back for the season or not because he's got some personal stuff going on. If he doesn't come back, it don't look like they're going to miss him too much because he didn't play against Missouri. And, man, they look just as dominant as ever. I know Missouri, they're having a decent season. They're 4-5 now in the year, so it's not like they're, doormats. Everyone's walking all over them. They're a decent team. But, man, Georgia was just able to shut them down, and they put up 43 points on the board for themselves. So not too shabby for a decent Saturday. Stetson Bennett, the quarterback, did great. 255 yards, 2 touchdowns. JT Daniels got into the ball game as well, 82 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. So they're starting to get that momentum back. They're starting to build momentum at quarterback. Bennett's looking great. Daniels is starting to get a little bit more healthy, it looks like. But, man, with that defense, you don't got to worry about much because, my goodness, the receiving core for Georgia, they put on a good show against Missouri. 168 total yards, 2 touchdowns on the day for that core. Karis Jackson had a big catch for 37. That really helped out in some certain situations. But, man, the running game, the rushing game went good with Karis Jackson. Had a 37-yard rush. But the receiving core was really what did good. They had 337 total yards, 3 touchdowns. That was led by Aaron Smith, Ladd McConkey, and Jermaine Burton led the way with 3 catches for 76 yards, including a 47-yard deep bomb that really helped build some momentum for them. So Georgia, I mean, they did what they do. It's Georgia. They had a clean game. They looked really good. Very limited on turnovers, only 1 interception, no fumbles. And that's what you expect from the top team in the country. You don't expect them to make many mistakes. And the games they're supposed to win, like they were supposed to win against Missouri in dominating fashion, they did just that. They won 43-6. I don't know how much better you can get. You didn't allow a single touchdown. For the Bulldogs, Dan Jackson led the way in terms of tackles, 6 on the day for him. They had a total of 2 sacks on the day, thanks to Trayvon Walker and Jamon Dumas-Johnson. And they were just doing anything and everything they wanted to against that Missouri Tigers team, man. They looked absolutely great. Missouri only had 121 yards rushing and 152 yards passing. So under 300 yards of total offense the entire 4 quarters. That's what we expect from Georgia. That's what they've done the whole year. Just grind out and break the will of the opposing team, seemingly. And they have all the momentum in the world. They've looked great this entire season. And for Tennessee, let's move on over to them. They've looked good. They've had a little bit of an up and down season. They're 5-4 at the moment, so they are above 500, which is always great. That shows they're improving. They've had a few tough losses this year. Of course, when you're in the SEC, you got to face the Alabamas of the world, the Ole Misses, Florida, so on and so forth. So it's never easy if you're a middle of the road type of team like Tennessee, trying to get back to that upper echelon of the Georgias, Alabamas, and whatnots. But Tennessee has proven that they are a top team in the country in terms of offense, because we talked about Georgia. They've got the number 1 team defense in the entire, not just in the SEC, but in college football. Jeremiah, they only allow 6 points, 6 points a game.
That's wild.
6 points a game throughout almost 10 games is absolutely unheard of. And especially in the SEC, like we just mentioned, where they have all these 5-star recruits, all these big 4-star guys too. It's absolutely incredible. But let's go to Tennessee, because they have a very good offense, ranked 15th in the country. So they're able to put up a good amount of points, a good amount of yards, and they're no slouch. I mean, Georgia's right there with them. They're 14-15, but Tennessee's not going to come quietly into this game. They have a high-powered offense. Of course, like you mentioned, first-year coach Josh Heupel looking pretty decent so far. He's starting to rebuild the culture there in Vol Nation. But what did Tennessee do? So last week they faced number 18 Kentucky, and that's going to be a close one. It was a close win, but a win nonetheless. Tennessee got the upset, 45-42, close game, and they pulled it off. That put them above 500, and they're looking really good. Hendon Hooker, the quarterback this year, man, he's looked. I think this is kind of a breakout year for him. He's looked really good this season, and I mean, we talked about it before the season even began. You know, who was Tennessee going to pick for their quarterback? Who was going to get this carousel revolved, and who's going to lead the way? And Hooker's looked great. He's thrown for almost 2,000 yards this season, 21 touchdowns, and only 2 interceptions. So he's really took the lead of being the number 1 QB, and he's looked great. But against Kentucky, he looked good. 316 yards, 15 of 20 passing, very efficient, 4 touchdowns, and 0, let me go, big goose egg, interceptions. Can't get much better than that. If you want to lead an upset, that's exactly what you need to do. Efficient passing, big yards, few touchdowns, and limit the turnovers. And that's how they were able to beat Kentucky, who's had a really good season so far. They're 6-3 now. Yeah. And their running game looked pretty good. Jabari Small, Jalen Wright ran for 100 yards combined. Small had a touchdown. And the receiving core, like I mentioned, they had help out the quarterback, and they got 4 touchdowns. Velus Jones, 5 catches, 100 yards even on the day. 1 touchdown. Cedric Tillman got a touchdown. Javonte Payton with 1. And Jacob Warren. So they were just slinging the ball all over the place and looking good doing it too, might I mention. The only thing is Hooker, like I mentioned, he didn't throw any exceptions, right, but turnovers. He fumbled the ball 3 times. He lost it once. Right. So you got to get that under control. You can't have Butterfingers in the biggest game of your life.
No.
So he did great on the interception side with 0, but you got to hold on to that football at all costs. So I know that, he only lost it once, but it's all right. You just got to really study the tape, figure out, man, how can I get this ball to stick my hand a little bit more? Mm-hmm. So that's the only thing. The defense for Tennessee, I mean, you can't say it was great. They gave up 42 points, but they got the win in the end, though. Jeremy Banks, 14 tackles. Aaron Beasley with 14. Theo Jackson with 11. They were putting in some work. They had 3 sacks on the day. Byron Young led the way with 2 of those, and Tyler Barron got the other. Alante Taylor had a key interception, took it back to the house for a pick 6. Can't get much better than that. Mm-hmm. And if you're Tennessee, if you want to come into this ball game, and if you want to get the win on the season, and the biggest upset probably in college football this year, you've got to come in here playing pretty much perfect football. And it's going to be tough because this is Georgia. Let's face it, it's never going to be easy. But you've got to be on point in terms of your passing, your running, your defense. You have to get a few turnovers, which is going to be a little bit difficult because Georgia Like I mentioned, they don't turn over the ball a whole lot. You
Mhm.
got to just play that perfect ball game. And sometimes, if the stars align right, if everything's looking good on Saturday, it could potentially happen.
Yeah.
However, I just don't see it coming, man. Georgia is just too dominant. I think they look like the number one team in the country. And I know Tennessee's got the home field advantage. They're going to be in Neyland.
Yep.
Fans are going to be rocking like crazy, like you mentioned. But I just think this Georgia team's too dominant, especially their defense. I've said it here on the show. We've had our other colleagues, our other guys in the show here say it before. This Georgia defense might go down as one of the best in terms of not just 2021 football, not just the past decade, but in college football history. Like I mentioned, only give up 6 points a game. How much you can't get a whole lot better than that.
Yeah.
So I think overall, in the end, Georgia will pull out the big win. If I had to go with the final score, I think Georgia will get 28. Keep it a little bit low scoring. I think Tennessee is going to play a little bit tighter, especially at home, like I mentioned. So I got Georgia 28, and I'm going to have Tennessee 10. It's going to be kind of a lower scoring game. I think the Vols will get some points on the board, but I think overall that Georgia defense will just shut them down like they've done seemingly every other team in the country. Got to give the Vols a little bit of love here on the show, of course. That's why I'm limiting Georgia to 28 points. I think overall the Dogs will get the win in this one and remain undefeated on the season.
Yeah, that definitely seems to be the tell of the tape for this game. I will tell all you Tennessee Volunteer fans out there, do not lose hope. Once you get that 10 points on the board, keep on pushing.
There you go.
Let's try not to get them on the board in the fourth quarter. Let's try to do it in the first half. So that being said, if Tennessee scores 10 points on Georgia, I will tell you that already is, I think, a record for the season. So, so when you got a team that you're facing like Georgia, then you have to bring every weapon in your arsenal.
Mhm.
You got to keep it on the field with every coaching play you can think of. You got to have the whole team good. You got to have leaders. You got to have the team really working together to be able to chip away at what is just a wall.
Yep.
So, yeah, a huge shout out to the Tennessee Volunteers as you go into this huge game. And for the Georgia Bulldogs, we do broadcast live here from Atlanta, Georgia. So the Georgia Bulldogs, we want to see y'all go for it all the way. And there's nothing wrong with that. The Braves just won the World Series. Let's get them Georgia Bulldogs to win the national championship. Let's keep it moving. I am so excited to see what you guys do. And this season's going to get crazy. Atlanta's going to get amazing, if we win. And, it's going to be a great day for football fans. So everybody who's watching on YouTube, Twitch, or Facebook, thank you so much for watching, and especially for telling all your friends and family by word of mouth about 100 Yards of Football. And if you're listening to our podcast, thank you again. But if you're not listening to our podcast yet, come and join us. Pull up your Spotify app, type in 100 Yards of Football, and we'll pop right up. There's the 50-yard line football. And if you don't use Spotify and use something else for podcast, go check that out, like Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, the Believe Podcast Network's direct website. Anywhere that you listen to podcasts, you can just go and type in 100 Yards of Football, and you can listen to us anytime. You can even use your voice-activated system, such as Alexa or your Google Home or any of those items, and just say, hey, I would like to listen to 100 Yards of Football podcast. And it'll go, you'd like to listen to 100 Yards of Football podcast. And it's going to play the new episode right now. That's one of the cool things about living in the future. So thank you so much for listening. Don't forget that we have new episodes coming out every single day on our podcast, and we have new episodes every week on our live videos, including incredible historic videos that you can listen to anytime. Just jump in your car and start driving. I know you have a lot of long trips ahead of you, like especially during this time of the year, going and seeing friends and family for the holidays. It's a great time to introduce people to new podcasts as well. So everyone here is so thankful for you watching and listening, and we're going to be back with another video here in just a minute. I am the producer, Jeremiah Long, and you've been listening to our host, Logan Landers, break down the Georgia Bulldogs versus the Tennessee Volunteers. We'll be right back.